Ahoj, já jsem Jana Moudrá a tady kolega je David Váhra a Tomáš Vizin a vítáme vás na našem dalším androidním setkání aDevMeetups. Tak, pro zopakování. aDevMeetups organizují GUG.cz Prague a Pivovary. Chtěla bych poděkovat Fakultě informačních technologií ČVUT za poskytnutí prostor a světu Androida, protože to je náš mediální partner. Příští aDevMeetup je 14. května a bude přednášet Michal Havrluk na téma pokročilé práce v databází a content providery. A dále bych vás chtěla ještě pozvat na další 2 akce. První z nich je Pivovary, to se bude konat 22. dubna a je to pro vývojáře iOSu. Pokud vás to nějak zajímá, tak se můžete být na straně info na Pivovary. Druhá akce je Fight Club a to je takový divácký sport, kde diváci sledují, jak vlastně vývojáři vytváří mobilní aplikaci. Bude se konat 25. května jako součástí konference aDevCamp a taky více brzy se dozvíte na Google.cz. A tímto bych předala slovo Tomášovi Inovi a ještě vám řeknu, pokud chcete tweetovat o akci, tak tweetujte s hashtagem aDevM a nebo můžete předávat fotky DTG Plus události v party mode. Děkuji.
Tak jo, díky Ani. Já bych navázal, a sice, že tady možná jste si všimli, anebo nevšimli, krásných zenových androidíků, které vyřezali repové. Také chceme říci takovou drobnou reklamu. Na příště máme Michala Havriluka, ale ten další aDevMeetup nebo ty dále mohou být i vaše. Každý aDevMeetup speaker, kromě spousty benefitů a toho, že pomůže komunitě, získá tohoto unikátního androidíka, který je vrcholnou geekovinou. Jo, takže jsme dlouho přemýšleli, co by to mohlo být a rozhodli jsme se pro toto. Tak, já ještě než předáme slovo našim Googlerům a vůbec celému tomu hlavnímu, tak povím něco k tomu, jak to bude probíhat. Pořadí aplikací jsem přečetl, já ho přečtu možná ještě jednou, Víta první aplikace, kde je první, výborně máme, pořadí zajistíme a budete postupně chodit na tu horkou židli, na které teď sedí David, bude přesunuta zde před ten MacBook, kde máme Hangouts Googleři. Výborně, tak to jako David budete sedět. To je důležité z toho důvodu, že za vámi Googleři vidí to audience, jo, jako jednotný hlas, takže by to budeme promítat i tam. Jo. Vaším úkolem a celá ta akce bude probíhat vlastně následovně. Vy si sem sednete do horkého křesla a budete mít 2 minuty na to, abyste o té své aplikaci Googlerům něco pověděli. A potom vlastně Googleři převezmou slovo a budou s vámi tu aplikaci probírat, v podstatě to bude dialog, budete moci, ten, kdo tady bude sedět, na to interagovat. Poté, když ten daný interview, ta session skončí, tak dotyčný prezentátor, jakožto reprezentant týmu, předstoupí sem do této části, jo, půjde tímto způsobem, tady teď jsem seděl Davidovi na klíně. Jo, tak David ukáže, ano, výborně. Tak, přijde k této části a může si vybrat jeden velký svek, to je jedno tady z toho, a jeden malý svek, to je nějaká tady z těch hromádek. Jo, tak to je k té organizaci. Doufám, že jsem na nic nezapomněl, kdyby ano, tak to kolektivně zjistíme již velmi brzy. Tak, a nyní bych chtěl asi předat slovo Davidovi, který bude řešit komunikaci s Googlery a ten asi dá signál tomu prvnímu týmu. Jo, tak Davide, je to tvoje.
Cool. Okay, let's switch to English. So, hi Reto. How is it in California?
Sunny and warm, as it pretty much always is in California.
I expected that. Okay, so welcome here in Prague via Hangout, and you can start.
Thank you. I feel like I should ask, how is it in Prague?
Sunny and warm.
Enjoy sunny and warm. Pretty cold. We are still expecting spring.
Yeah. Okay, well, I thank you very much for inviting us to your GDG in Prague. I'm a big fan of Prague. I love the city, been there a few times, not just for Google Developer Days, but for fun as well. And one of the things which I always come away from whenever I go to Prague is how great it is. It's one of the big reasons why Google has a big interest in what happens in Prague. So we are really honoured to have this opportunity to take a look at some of the apps that you guys have put together, hopefully give you some feedback, and just basically hear from you guys as well as to what you've been working on and what inspires you at Android. So,
and I've been to Prague once on the way to Brno. That's pretty much it.
Great. Okay, so let's invite our first speaker. What's the name of your application?
Okay, our application is called Big Launcher.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about Big Launcher and a little bit about yourself as well. You've only got a couple of minutes though, so be quick.
Okay. Hi guys, nice to meet you. It's a pleasure to kick off this fantastic event, so I hope we get some great feedback. So our application is called Big Launcher. As the name suggests, it's a launcher suitable for seniors, for people who are visually impaired, and for disabled people. It uses big icons and large text for all the basic functions of the phone, including context, including messaging, including call log, and also it can launch applications, of course. So we built this app from ground up, so it's a little bit different than other apps respecting the hollow scheme and stuff like that. But our point is that these people, seniors or visually impaired, need a special interface to interact with their smartphone. It has to be really easy, so we don't use any gestures, we don't use any long presses and stuff like that. All the configuration is separated from the user interface, so those people, or those users, don't have to be afraid to break something or delete something. So Big Launcher is pretty customizable. You can add more screens, you can customize the buttons, you can put shortcuts or widgets there. And the point is that you can really prepare a customized user interface to suit the end user needs. We also stress about the accessibility features. So lots of items on the screen has more item descriptions for talkback than it's written on the screen, because everything is big, so not all the information fits in the screen. But for legally blind, it's better when they got more text read when they use the app. So that's about it, short intro.
Cool. And I think that you make a good point about the design of the app. We've never really, I think, applied Android design principles to custom launchers that have this. In fact, I think we're going to be talking about mid mode apps, which have a really simple or similar purpose, where you have a launcher that's designed for a specific group of people that is not the main group of people that Android was designed for, in general. And so you want to have those special needs met by a different design that makes more sense for that group. I think that's great.
Absolutely. Do you want to switch to the giant phone, if you would, producer Daniel? And boom, there we go. Hopefully you guys can all see this in Prague as well. So this is Big Launcher up on our giant phone. And exactly as the developer said. Oh, by the way, make sure you guys introduce yourselves when you get started as well, so you know what to call you. What is your name, sir?
Jan.
Jan. All right, perfect. So
That's a great name.
It is a great name. I feel like we're not going to be able to pronounce any of the names today, so we started about as simple as it's going to get, and it's going to go downhill from here. Nonetheless, Jan has done a great job here. You can see Big Launcher is exactly what it says it is. It's a replacement launch screen. And it is exactly that. So it's got nice big buttons, bright icons, really easy to see what's going on. One of the things that I did find was during the configuration process, there's a setup wizard that you go through. And as part of that process, it feels like that's actually quite complex. So it's almost as though it's an app that you're going to want to set up full support. rather than have sort of visually impaired older person set it up themselves.
That's kind of the impression that I got. I don't know how else you can do it really, because obviously you're going to have some steps where you have to dig into the stuff that's in the phone already. You know, even at least just to set it up as the default launcher.
So that's the thing that you may want to consider is, what is the target audience for that phase of the app? So if that's more for your sort of expert user, so yourself or whoever who's setting up a phone for your parent or grandparent, then you may want to try and make that a little bit more familiar to sort of the standard phone UI, and then keep the sort of large screen simplified stuff for the final phone screen itself. There's also a couple of tips about the wizard setup process itself. It doesn't quite follow a standard wizard type UI. In a normal wizard, I want to be able to go navigate backwards and forwards until I'm complete. And I noticed that when I was set up, I had to progress. It was just sort of a series of questions that got put up on screen. I answered them, I chose my default, whatever else, and moved on. Now, if you're setting up, if the idea here is that it is for the older person to use themselves, and that kind of makes a lot of sense. You don't want to have to put too many buttons on screen, too much confusing navigation, just one big question, make a decision, move on to the next part. But I'm not sure that they quite work. It was a little bit too complex for that use case, a little bit too basic for a more expert user. One of the things that I noticed through that wizard process as well is that you're able to select language or go by the default. Now, I was a little confused by that because the phone is obviously going to have a language set. You can have the different resource folders to make sure that the correct assets are loaded. Was there a particular reason why you wanted to allow people to select a language independent of the phone itself?
Yeah, there's a reason because we feel that some of users can have a different language set in the system settings, but they want to use a different language in launcher itself. For example, some immigrants or people like that. So that's why.
Okay, that's true. I think if I were setting up this phone for my mother-in-law who's Chinese, I think that I would want to set up in English, but she of course would want to
have a launcher in Chinese. That makes a lot of sense. All right. I'm learning stuff myself. So when I'm actually using the app, so you can see here that the buttons are responsive, which is nice. Whenever you're building custom buttons, custom UI, it's really important to make sure that they behave the same way that standard Android buttons work. And so you need to have some sort of feedback when you're pressing things. What I did notice, which you'd be interested to understand better, is generally for stuff like this, it might be useful to have a long press which triggers the accessibility by default. Same way they're on action bar.
That actually does. Obviously, you felt like the long press was friendly to this type of user.
Yeah, and it could be. So how does one trigger sort of the accessibility talkback functions of the phone then?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You were talking about the fact that the app is accessibility enabled, that it does support talkback and provides that extra information. How does that get triggered within your app? Because if you use standard Android functionality and things like long press is what's going to allow that to work in the screen navigation. So is yours just sort of built in so it'll do that irrespective of user action that's enabled?
There are two things. The first is that senior people got problems. Get problems to distinguish between long press and short press. So we wanted to get rid of that. And then during the development, we got this idea or the possibility to use a long press for some other function. So you can turn on in the accessibility options that on long press the big launcher reads the activated item. This is useful for older phones with previous versions of Android, which doesn't have the Explore by Touch function. So even on these older phones, people can use this read by touch or read by long press function developed by us, and they can be, for example, be reminded of what this icon does. So when you create a shortcut for some application, you see only the icon, but when you long press on it, the description of this icon is red, so you will remember what it does.
Very nice, very nice. So I mean, overall, there's not a huge amount of feedback that we can give apart from getting a little bit nitpicky. I think that the padding around the time and date along the top up here is a little bit narrow. You probably want to indent that a little bit more to make it feel a little bit more balanced. Really, a lot of feedback is going to be that kind of nitpicky stuff. So we're going to make sure we complete that in an email and send you off those details. We're going to get Roman, Nick, and Adam from the Android Design and Action team as well to provide a little bit of extra feedback on sort of UI elements to this app and all what we look at today, rather than spend too much time complaining about 2 pixels being missing from a particular part of the UI.
Well, I did have one comment on the clock. I was a little surprised because I've always been told that digital clocks were less accessible and that older people would prefer analog clocks, but you use a digital clock here. I'm wondering, is that a conscious decision?
Well, it's again because of the support of low-res devices and older phones, because you don't have too much space on phones with 240 by 320. So it's we also, if you turn on the option in preferences, there is also enlarged battery indicator and mobile signal indicator, and we are really getting low on space there.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That makes sense.
So, okay, so a couple of very quick last minute points. So it does have an old school menu button, which does display a custom, more easily pressable menu, I suppose. I'd like to say, I understand why you've got this, particularly for backwards compatible support for all the devices. I did note that you still have the menu button, and it is a little more shameful in the wizard. There's no need to have it available there. And here I would think about having a default mechanism on newer versions of the device which get rid of that menu button. So I know that there is a setting within the setup wizard which lets you optionally choose to have your preferences show up in the UI itself. I'd consider defaulting that to on and hiding that menu button away. Just will make the app look newer devices, make people feel like it's a more polished final product. And the other piece of suggestion I would have as well, particularly around, so it seems like you're having to make a lot of UI compromises and choices based on what makes it easy to use by older people. I would, if you're not already, strongly suggest that you make sure to use a lot of analytics to find out exactly what people are doing. Are they long pressing? Are they then hitting back? Well, what are the behaviors? What are the choices? What are the outcomes? And so on.
We did lots of testing with the UI itself, but we currently don't include any analytics in the app because again it's about the target group. We suppose that lots of seniors don't have data tariff or mobile data at all, so we've created this from the beginning to be completely offline application.
Great. Well, I can't argue with that. It sounds like you thought it through. So yeah, nicely done. That's the thing. We could go on praising it.
No, that's great. Well, and actually, I'm sorry, I've always got one last thing, but I think you've got a really good point that that you don't want to use the data tariff, but I considered maybe doing analytics anyway, storing it to storage. So I feel like, especially in a scenario where you have a caregiver that's setting up the app, and then you've got the senior that's using it, it might be useful to have that data even offline to just debug issues.
Yeah, and you can also do things like store up the analytics that's only uploaded when connected to Wi-Fi. Those sorts of things which
all of you should be doing anyway. That's a really important step.
All right, perfect. So thank you very much. Great app. We'll send you through some tips, but basically, nicely done.
I think that's all. So thank you very much for your feedback.
All right, who's the next victim?
Next victim. Our victim. Okay, next application is Stocks Tracker.
Great.
Hello guys. So, my name is Tomáš Ondráček.
Come on.
Okay, cool.
Hopefully Tom for you.
Sounds great. We can deal with
That's way
that.
more our speed.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So let me introduce my application that I published a few days ago. It's named Stock Tracker, so as name suggests, it's about stocks. So one day I bought a stock here at Prague Stock Exchange, and I wanted to watch it all the time with my phone. But by that time there was no application that could provide me data from Prague Stock Exchange, so I decided to make my own app. Later on I realized that there is not so much people interested in Prague Stock Exchange, so I added support for more markets. The most important markets like US and Germany. So the group of people that this app is supposed to be, that this app is for, it's people that are interested in stock markets in general, or people that already have some stocks and want to keep an eye on their portfolio. So the main point is that the application starts quickly and right away shows the latest data, the latest prices, with very simple and lucid summary, so you can easily see the latest development and changes. The next thing is that you can put your stocks in the portfolio and let the app calculate all the gains and losses, so you have always overview about your money. As a bonus, all the data, all stocks that you add to the application or portfolio are synchronized at server, so you can seamlessly switch between your devices and always see your stocks. So that's the main features from the application.
Alright, perfect. Alright, so let's take a look. So one of the things that I really like about this app is just the story you told us of having a need you wanted to have fulfilled and then building an app that fulfills that. I think a lot of the best apps come from people who have a problem where they want to solve it themselves. And so they build an app which does that. And I think that's a great way of knowing what the users want if your own first customer. So that's a good place.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the last sentence? It seems like connection is not very good.
A little shady, yeah. I was just saying, it's a great way if you are your own first customer to make sure that you build an app that's great for you. So let's start it up. You promised it would be really quick as soon as it started. So let's boom. That's pretty fast. All right, nice. So this is a really nice app. What I really like about this is how you've followed the Android design guidelines in a way that makes it really easy to use, really familiar, but it's still unique look and feel. So if we look at the front page here, we've got this sort of custom little thing down the bottom here, which is giving us the NASDAQ index, nice little graph control there. All of this is custom, there's nothing like this built in platform, so that looks really nice.
It's really pretty. And it's a good use of space there too, because we've always said too much on the bottom because you don't want to accidentally press something when you're trying to hit the back button and the home button. So it's nice to see something there that is visual and important, but doesn't have to be interactive with people. In fact, honestly, the only problem that I had when I first picked up this interface was looking for the search button. Boom! I sort of expected it to be up at the top, and instead it was up at the bottom. Now, it's a perfect icon. Search with a little plus, like, oh, that's how I answer. No worries there. As soon as I found it, it just, it took a little while to find it because it wasn't in the place I expected.
It feels like it should be your name. That may be one piece of feedback, is to extend that bottom part out, move the button up at the top.
Yeah. We also, we usually say don't put a refresh button.
Yeah, it's possible. I've got a little bit, so I had a little bit of a look to see how the refresh works. And it seems that you've got, within preferences, you're able to select your refresh frequency. Whenever I see that sort of thing, I get a little bit nervous. So I need to I feel like I need to ask you, how are you doing your research?
Yeah, sorry. How are you doing your refreshing?
Well, the application starts alarm in a particular interval. It's not waking up alarm. So,
okay. So the inexact repeating of the alarm?
Not repeating, but I set alarm every time I need to schedule next update.
Okay, so one of the things about that, if you're doing that yourself and it's not repeating, then it's going to trigger it basically the exact time. So you may want to consider setting an inexact repeating alarm, even if you disable the alarm each time and reset it. That'll give the system a little bit of leeway to time shift all the alarms from the different apps and make sure that you're not waking up the cell radio sort of within a few seconds of each other and keeping the radio hot and draining the battery. If you want to take it even a step further, given that you think you have a server where you're remembering what people's stocks are. So if you wanted to be really, really battery efficient, really, really awesome, you would actually do all the parsing of the stocks on your server and then use Google Cloud Messaging to tell each device which have those particular stocks listed, but it's time for a refresh. In fact, because the stock data is full, you could probably bundle that within the payload. So you wouldn't actually need to keep refreshing at all. You can just tell the devices, GUG is up 10% and have an update that.
It wouldn't mind if there was a lot of messages, a lot of push messages from server to all those apps?
No, we have apps, social media apps, like Twitter clients and messaging apps like instant messaging apps all use cloud devices.
Okay.
Cloud messaging. No quota, very efficient, definitely the way to go.
Okay.
So that's something to look at. I think that's probably the biggest piece of feedback, which is going to really transform this app. It's going to reduce your latency, it's going to increase your battery life, it's going to let you hide away these refresh buttons. So I think that would be a tremendous asset. From the UI perspective, I was worried. We don't have the Android design and action guys here. Roman, Nick, those guys are kind of the experts. They've done a great job. A lot of these apps have done a fantastic job. You're looking at, we've got the tab strip along the top. So you've got this really beautiful view pager implementation, so you can switch between the stock exchanges. Then you've even done.
Is that your own, or did you borrow that from the apps page on the OSP?
I beg your pardon?
Well, I just noticed that the 3D effect here. I wonder if that's the OSP implementation, or did you do that yourself?
No, it's simple page transformer that is available in support library, so nothing special.
It looks really nice.
Yeah.
And what really impresses me is we've got the view pager and also got the direct implementation for the draw pattern, like correct in every way. It displays correctly, it comes in and out correctly. Just really, really nicely done. So bravo. We so rarely see a correctly implemented draw pattern in some Google apps, so it's impressive. And you've got the right details here. One possible nitpick, you've got settings and account within the drawer. Not entirely convinced that's the right place for it. I think the drawer is better for just navigation, so all of these other things stop before this is market news. Perfect. But I consider moving settings and account back into the overflow menu, select markets.
Okay.
And possibly even switch them around, move select markets into the, potentially move that into the navigation drawer. But these two things, settings and accounts, are things which you would rarely change. Set up once or twice maybe at the beginning and then never see them again. So you want to move them out generally UI and hide them away.
Yeah, in fact, things like select market I might even want to see in the settings. Basically settings is a really good place to tuck away things that you don't expect to be used particularly frequently. So when you go to select markets, you're basically, I figured that not being an international super trader, I'll probably set up a couple of markets and then forget about them and just switch between them. I do think that it was a little confusing in terms of how, a difference from the stock apps that I normally use to have to remember which market which my stocks is listed on. That might be more of a US thing, where we've got NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, and we don't really think of them. I mean, they're treated the same for tax purposes, so I don't really think of them as being different. So, you know, I looked for a couple of stocks and I couldn't find them, and it turned out they were on the wrong page.
That may be a really useful search feature, so that when you are searching to add, it works across all things you have selected. Not across every feed, just ones which you are interested in. That might be really useful. I noticed when Ian added the private stock, it has a whole bunch of default box set up. I really like that because it's actually one of the pieces of feedback that I had was when you first start up the app, you end up with this screen, which is perfectly fine. It tells you to add stock, but it's kind of almost cheating because it's asking you to add stock using a button which you will never be able to use again. So it's almost training the user to use the app the wrong way. I think it would be really interesting to instead have a few default blocks so that you sort of see a screen like this when you get started, immediately understand how the app works, and then are looking to add your own stocks, which you then do using the button which moves it to the upper top.
Another thing that a lot of apps do that I think I like a lot and particularly helpful is if you do have empty space in your list, what you can do is put the outline of another item, which then if you press it, it will take you to the add page. You know, so, because that's the thing, is when I look at these stocks, you know, the first thing I think is, how do I get more things in the list? And if the button is right there, it's very intuitive, as opposed to, you know, down here in the corner, where it's certainly visible, but just not as intuitive.
Otherwise, like I said, really nice app. You click through, you have the stock details here, the nice again custom graph, which you know, shows the stock much better over that time frame. And then if you click again further through, you can actually annotate the graph and save that, and you can share using the standard share intent, which is all really nice. One thing I did notice, obviously have the ability to zoom in and out using the buttons at the top. I was kind of always looking to zoom and pan left or right, you know, within this. So it's kind of screaming out for a gesture of some kind. And I think we actually have an Android training class around gesture support, so maybe we'll look at that, considering it. I've built so many graph implementations with so many different programming languages over the years, so I know how much it is to implement that level of zooming and panning. So not a feature, not a high priority bug. Certainly the faster, more efficient updates is more important. But as a nitpicky thing, which might be really nice, you know, I don't think it's
That's odd because I've built a graph letter and I think it's
wow. We all know who's a better programmer. So yeah, I was taking a few notes. I just want to see if I'm anything here. I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to.
Great. The thing that I think we have to point out, and I don't know how well it comes out in the video, it's just how fast it is. It's completely smooth.
Yeah, really quick.
Yeah, put a lot of effort to make it fast.
Yeah, and it's paid off. Like, you know, Project Butter, big part of what we do with the framework now, trying to get everything to be snappy, fast, smooth. Everything in this app is, you know, updates. Never any jag, never any latency, everything just sort of works, which is really nice. You know, portfolio stuff here again, tells you how much money you've theoretically made. You know, go back to stocks, it's all just fast and quick and intuitive. So, congrats, nicely done. We'd love to, if you do get a chance to implement the Google Cloud messaging, we'd love to hear about that. I think at that point, this could be that which we could talk about featuring. Yeah, not that it's our choice, but we can do it before people who's
well, we certainly do have the ability to get into the pure Android.
That's true. So this is looking pretty pure Android, but yeah. So once
I think a couple of little changes, getting rid of the refresh button and going to a different refresh cycle, that would be because we need a stock app.
Totally need a stock app. This is nice. Yeah. So yeah, definitely keep in touch. Let us know how you get on, and we'll see what
yeah, and add Hong Kong and
Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, what do we have next?
Thank you very much. The next speaker is application SMS ticket.
Hello everyone. My name is Ondra Zahradník. I'm from in my company, and I'm happy to introduce last update of SMS ticket, which our team has just released yesterday.
Oh wow.
Let me say a couple of words about the use case because you might not be that familiar with it. Let's say I want to take a bus or tube in Prague. What I need is a ticket. And I can buy a ticket in a shop or in a ticket vending machine, or I can send a special text message to some special number, like this. And after a minute or two, I receive a text message which I can officially use as a ticket. And what our application does, it remembers all those codes and special numbers for you. So you can, in 3 clicks, you can send a text message. You will receive the text message back. The application parses validity information from the ticket, sets some alarms to warn you 10 minutes before the ticket expires, fires notifications, and saves the ticket in the database for later reference. Later on, you can see how much you spent on the tickets in detailed statistics. Let me say just some numbers. We have about 83,000 users, and about every second user uses the application actively, and we support 22 tickets in 9 Czech and 4 Slovak cities. What do we cook for the future? We would like to add push notifications to keep the ticket database up to date, and we would like to add a widget to make the order of the ticket just one-click experience.
Nice.
Okay, I'm pleased to be here, and I would appreciate any feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming along. So like I said, I've been to Prague a couple of times for Google Developer Days, and the folks from Invite are always impressive. You guys do some really good work, so it's wonderful to see. I think 2 apps from you guys nominated today. SMS ticket, you're going to be able to be pretty quick on this because it's actually really good. I love what you guys have done. You've got your custom branding, this sort of golden orange color, which is really distinctive, and it pervades the entire UI in a way that kind of subtle but really effective. It's obvious what your brand is. Icon coloring, everything else really works. Once you're in here, again, you have sort of this really subtle user guide so that you know what you're supposed to do. You know, it tells you right here you can choose a list of tickets or statistics, buy new tickets. The whole process is laid out for you in a way that doesn't feel too obnoxious. I don't need to click past it, I don't need to go through a wizard, it's just there. If I order a ticket, you know, again, you're given the cities, all of this detail, so Wilson, and then you can, again, it's just this really simple, quick process. Everything's really obvious, 35 minutes, buy a ticket, and again, you've even customized the color of the text in this dialogue. Now, normally I wouldn't be convinced that that's actually a good idea, but it kind of works here. Authentic, and that's kind of the key. Like, we always harp on about how important it is to follow the guidelines. Don't change the standard UI in ways that confuse users. A lot of people think they have to create apps that look exactly the same as all the standard apps.
We did that in Orange, so why don't have orange dialogues? Or why should we use blue dialogues?
In fact, you know, if you've ever seen our game review show, which is sadly off the air right now, but you know, one of the things that we would harp on is when you'd be playing a game and it would all of a sudden pop up a standard system dialogue and it took it right out of the game. And so having a skin for those dialogues, making it feel like it's part of your app without doing too much rearranging or alteration of the functionality is a great idea.
Absolutely. So if we try and buy a ticket, we can't because we can't send an SMS, which is perfectly appropriate. You guys have happily have happily sent us a special version where we can add a test ticket to it. Thank you for that. That definitely makes our life easier. Really straightforward, 12 minutes. It's got a little orange indicator saying that actually you're going to need to use this ticket pretty soon. So that's a really good indicator. Make sure people, what you're doing here is adding value above and beyond what they would have gotten if they just looked at their SMS texts, their SMS queue. Change that data from presenting them with a ticket. And now it's turning red, because I guess it's within 12 minutes. We can click here, we can see the valid to and from, we can see the code, and I guess the code's important because I'm guessing you have to show that to the conductors or what have you, that they're costing, demanding to know if you paid for your ticket. So you go through, you can show the SMS itself,
Right,
which is perfect, so that can all be validated. For consistent. What I really like here is they've actually used notifications really cleverly. So you have this notification, and it's a rich notification, so you're able to show the SMS, which you need to do if someone wants to know that you've got a ticket. Got the details, and it's got an icon here, which if we continue to prod along, which we will, this will become red.
Perfect.
It's like a scripted. So it's red, which means, hey, you've got less than probably 10 minutes before the ticket expires, so you need to get on and use it. Really, really useful, really, really effective way of using notifications. Now, again, this is non-standard. The guidelines say that a notification icons should be black and white, small, etc.
No, I disagree. I disagree because the guidelines actually say they should be monochrome.
Yes.
You can take that.
That's true.
There's only one.
That's true. It's only one color, so I can't argue with that. But again, it's a really practical way of showing more information in a way that just makes sense. You go, well, obviously it's
really
what else
smart.
would it be? So,
I agree.
again, really nice.
And in fact, the only thing that I was surprised about, that I kind of wanted to be different, is I would love to have the SMS and the important codes show up in a much larger font. I imagine myself, needing to show that to somebody, and just my day is going to go faster if it's about 2 or 3 times as big as everything else.
It's okay. I'm sure every single person uses the app. Everyone in Prague who uses public transport is using your app anyway, so the conductors are totally getting used. No, that's a good point. It would be nice to make it more visible.
Same thing with the order ticket button. I think that can be bigger and a little further away from the status bar. I think that would make me a little more comfortable.
Yeah, and it might be useful to emphasize the actions you want people to take, or the information that they need, and make that a little more obvious. UI init app tabs, you can be swipe between them. So you want to have that view page implementation on the front page to swipe the sticks.
I don't know why we do tabs without view pages.
So we should just not allow it.
Yeah.
So that's the only other sort of nitpicky. Oh, as well, when you've got the notification, so you've got when the ticket will expire, valid from code. I'd almost want to change it around a little bit so that you had made it a little bit more obvious how long until it expires. So you've got that counter indicated by red. I just want to see like 10 minutes, 5 o'clock, whatever those 2 numbers are, should be kind of the, make older, make more obvious.
Yeah, the orange stands for like 20 minutes, then the red one stands for last 10 minutes, and then it goes gray for expired tickets.
Right, nice. And beautifully, once I'm done with my ticket, I can swipe away. Probably after it's expired. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that explains why I can't get rid of it. So that's fine. And I'm guessing I haven't actually tried adding multiple tickets. Yeah, nice. Add lots of tickets. I'm testing it. But that works nicely. Now, one thing that you may want to consider though is that if I do have a lot of tickets, and that's, in fairness, probably not a very common use case, I risk flooding my notification bar. So you may want collapsing that in. You've just got the latest one and a total number of tickets. If
you're traveling with your family, for instance, you might buy 4 tickets to the same place.
We still can group them.
Yeah, exactly. You can group by expiration time, something like that. I think that would be.
That would be great.
And they do dismiss. Perfect. So yeah, nice. I'm going to check to see if I have any additional notes. Not really. I think the real issue we had was the swiping between tabs. Everything else is nitpicky. I hopefully you find some of that useful, but totally your call.
Yeah, of course, I mean, one argument for not swiping between the tabs is that if you can dismiss these tickets by swiping them away, it might be hard to distinguish between swipe on the ticket and swipe between tabs. But I think what we're really asking for now is an edge swipe. So if you've got something where you're swiping internally, then it's understandable that that gesture wouldn't switch between tabs, but an edge swipe always should.
Yeah, the stock track, which is that actually does this really well, bringing out the action, the draw at the side, we got sort of a swipe for that, which works really, really well. Perfect. All right, so we shouldn't spend much more time on what is already a really nice app. We want to be able to take a couple more that we have available. So thank you very much. Really nicely done. And yeah, let us know how you get on.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next speaker needs to jump a little bit. Okay, so the next application is Swim Places. Sorry. So just to let you know, I'm a developer. I'm trying to build a project management for your Forge. And I'm this critique person, spokesperson for that. I'm going to talk about our app that was conceived together. Oh, by the way, my name is Jirka. That's one of the tough names.
Yeah.
That's it. And this app was originally conceived by our mate, Colex, who designed that application for Swim Places. And one day when we decided, on a hot day when we decided to go out swimming and we couldn't find anything, we didn't have a computer with us, we decided that we're gonna create the app. It's a non-commercial community app, which basically allows and provides the users with the option to add places that they love or discover new places that they haven't visited yet. As of now, it's been downloaded by about 20,000 users, both for Android and iPhone, and there's plenty users who use the still working web application. The target group is pretty much like wild swimming enthusiasts, but also that doesn't mean skinny dippers, but it also does. Include them.
You're against them, it's not for them, but they're welcome.
You're welcome to use it, yeah. And it's for people who travel and for people who like swimming in general. For those people, we also added places like standard facilities such as water parks, amusement parks, and indoor pools. But mostly we try to focus on the outdoor swimming. In fall 2012, we localized the app in English, and we went global, and we're slowly extending our community outside of Czech Republic, hoping that it will pick up and there will be plenty of places filling up the map just like it did in Czech Republic. Pretty much the app follows standard guidelines, and the maps that we used were Google version 2 maps. Basically the benefits for the users, yeah, they're pretty straightforward. I need to go swimming, come somewhere where I don't know it, or I want to discover new places. I open this map and it shows me places that I'm looking for, such as quarries, lakes, whatever. You know, if I want to swim in a dirty pond, so dirty pond.
Yeah, that's my favorite. All right, let's Let's take a look. Yeah, you can't judge anyone's preferences on me. So I guess one of the questions I did want to ask. So it sounds like all the places that get added are based on your community. You're not sourcing data from anywhere else. You're asking what you use to add places as the visitor. Is that correct?
Correct. It's correct. First couple were added by us, the most known ones, but then the community picked up and basically is in charge of adding everything.
Perfect. Okay, so that's what we can see. So if we look at our list, so I like that it knows where I am and gives me nearby places based on my location. But it didn't turn on the GPS, at least not that I noticed, so it was all done quite quickly, quite quietly. I don't feel like it's draining my battery for something that it shouldn't need. That's a really nice touch.
That's good. And, you know, these sorts of apps, you don't really need very accurate location to be useful.
Exactly.
Of course, this one draws a pretty wide, we got all the way down from San Diego up to Seattle.
Yeah.
I know that place. One of my best friends lives a few blocks from there. Well, he was my best friend until I found out his wife was working on the Kindle Fire project. So now we talk. But
yeah, well, what are you going to do?
Tell your friend to add more.
So that's kind of our problem in terms of using it, is just that we don't, obviously there's not a big community of swim places users yet here in the Bay Area. I'm pretty sure that there is a beach closer than Pismo Beach.
Yeah, you don't want to swim. It's awful.
Yeah, it's not actually.
Not in the Bay.
It's so cold here. It's beautiful Pacific, we've got the bay, and you will just die. Then again, I'm talking to people in Prague, so I guess you enjoy outdoor swimming, you don't have a problem with getting cold. App looks nice. I think overall, you've obviously got a color scheme going. You've got the blue. It gets perhaps a little too blue here, and then you've got dark blue at the top, and a lighter blue for your tabs, and then a lighter blue for each list item, and then a slightly darker blue for distances. What it means is the contrast is getting a little washed out. The app seems to almost fall on itself, where the bits of white become almost too pronounced. This little white bar that says places around me in the tiny, tiny text seems more important to it, because it's one of the only pieces of UI that isn't bordered. So you want to be really careful about how those color choices and the color template can affect the way that people are looking at the app.
Right.
I feel like the list items, they feel a little bit too narrow. I'm not sure how high they are, but they feel like they're a little bit less than 48 pixels. I'm not quite as good at roaming when it comes to picking the exact pixel heights, but it feels a little narrow.
Possible. Possible.
It's a really small thing, but it makes a real difference in terms of how easy it is to click on things and get through that. So you want to make sure you're at least 48 dips in height for anything you can touch.
Probably, well, again, like on the last step, we really encourage you to use a view pager so that you can swipe between those tabs. It just, at this point, that pattern is so common that it feels wrong when it's not there, to me. And then the action bar.
Yeah, so it's an interesting choice. So I'm guessing this is a split action bar implementation. I'm not entirely sure, but it feels like these buttons could just as happily live at the top as part of the sort of standard action bar.
Well, basically, they're at the bottom since we couldn't really fit them, and next to the tabs that are already on the top, and it changes when you flip it, sort of when you flip it 90 degrees, it changes and it goes to the top.
Okay, and that makes sense. So you are using the split action bar. It's a legitimate pattern. It can be at times a little bit disconcerting to have the things along the bottom. It is a standard pattern, so I can understand why you've done that. Again, you probably want to see if you can lose the refresh button. It doesn't seem like an app that's going to be refreshing data so rapidly. The user is going to want to have to manually do a refresh. It makes sense in instant messaging or an email where you're waiting for an email, so keep pressing the button. I think the update rate is be much slower. So you're better off doing maybe server push, again using Google Cloud messaging. When something gets updated, you send it out to all customers to tell them, hey, there's new locations. You may even want to include the location, a newly added spot in the Google Cloud messaging payload, so that then the app only needs to do an update now if that location is near where the user is. So if it's 1,000 kilometers away, don't worry, we'll do the update later. It's right next door. Hey, maybe that's going to be interesting to them.
So unless you're phenomenal.
True. It's only like a
you got to try to figure out where you're
going. That's
true.
So
the survey would use that.
Sure. For the rest of us, not so much. Your list views as well. So you've got a lot of content in each of these. And it seems like some of them are complicated. So I'm not entirely sure what the icons on the left mean. I'm guessing it's the kind of place. The shell means the sea. The loveliness monster lake. Is that the idea?
Yeah. We were.
So that's really nice. I really like that. I like the visual of it. Makes it much easier to see at a glance.
I like that it's color coded and
yes, it's a picture and a color, which is nice. But it doesn't mean you duplicate your data. So I don't need to see the word sea next to the seashell. Like, you should just train your users so that they understand that that's what that means. It's certainly when you click through the details, it's useful then to say what it is, so that they can learn what those different icons mean. But on this main screen, I want to see the name of the beach be a bigger, basically, make it easier to read, easier to see. That's the main piece of information that you're trying to pass on.
Same with the distance.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, here where we've got some beaches that are relatively close and some that are very far away, it would be useful to have the distance a little more scannable.
Absolutely. One other thing I want to do is, if I navigate in, I have the ability to hit map or navigation, really nice touch. I would consider adding the navigation action to this main list view on the right-hand side. Because if I was using the app, that's a lot of the time that's what I'm going to do. If I'm driving up or down the Pacific coast, I want to watch the sunset at a beach. Take a look at this, look for all of the pink things, and the nearest one I find, I'm just going to hit navigate to find out how to drive that. So again, this depends on your use case. This is a really good example of why analytics can be useful. To find out all of the users are going through here, and straight away clicking navigation. If that's a really use case, then that's something you want to promote. And similarly, try to decide, and this is kind of good advice for most developers, decide what do you want your users to do? What are the main actions? What counts as steps? So do you want them to go through and read as many of these as possible, or add photos, or use it to navigate? What are those primary actions? Make that as simple as possible for them to achieve.
Right. As of now, we mostly want them to add as much information as possible, upload photos. The navigation is just a candy.
Nice to have. And so that's good advice, right? So then what you may want to do is consider adding one of those actions to this main screen. So you can say, oh, I'm at that page. So you just open it up and go, oh, the one at the top is where I'm at, and have the button there to add photos directly from it. Obviously that introduces my challenge in making it a little bit more cluttered. So you may only want to add that button to the item at the very top of the list. But it's something to consider. Like, you want to reduce the number of clicks between the user opening your app and performing whatever action you want them to perform. So similarly, and you've got the ads here, which are just for adding places. Obviously that's the main thing that you want them to do, to build up that community. So that may be another example of why it may make sense to have that sort of at the top, because when most people are opening the app, they're expecting the main actions to be up here. And so by not having it there, it makes it a little bit less likely that they hit that plus button. You maybe want to go a step further, and if that really is the most important thing for the app, is to have a big button where maybe above the list view, which encourages them to do that first and foremost. Now, I wouldn't always do that, but you can tell how important that is. But in Prague, you've got probably most of the important swimming places there, strong community, it's less important, so you definitely don't show it to people in Prague. Here in California, they're missing. Most of the things here are missing. And so I open this app and I go, well, this isn't actually that useful to me because there's nowhere nearby. But if the first thing at the top of the screen was actually a button that allows me to add places, well, that I can do. I know a bunch of places around here that I can add.
Well, do add.
I will. I will actually add it for myself. But that's my point, is that you want to make it obvious to the user, what do you want from me to do? And then I can decide whether that's something that is useful and interesting for me. So maybe have a look. If there's nowhere within 100 kilometers, make that the main option. Just say, please help grow our community. People do love that sort of thing. So that maybe something to consider.
Good point.
Now, for the ad screen, this might just be me, but I really feel like you'd get a better user experience and possibly more additions if the first thing was the map. Because you have this nice, positional thing, but what I really want to do is the first thing is I want to point to it on a map and then fill in information. The problem with this screen is that the very first thing I see is 3 or 4 text boxes and the on-screen keyboard. And that immediately says to me, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do a lot of typing, and I'm not into it right now. I think I'll just go and do something else.
This is what you get straight away. All you see is the text. And you're like, I just wanted to think. So what Ian's saying is a really good point. If this was the very first thing, as soon as you click in here, you see a map with an icon next to a quarry or a lake that I'm in. It's like, okay, great. So I click that, and then the next thing I get is ask me for a name and stuff. And hopefully as much of this is optional as possible, so that you can just say, yeah, it's the Pacific Ocean.
Do we still have
It's just still an API from Google, Places API, that allows you to search for places of interest. You may be able to use something like that to help make suggestions to users. I don't think
autofill.
Yeah, I don't think you're able to use the data itself, but you can use it as a way to suggest places that people can then fill in the data themselves. But do check the API terms and service, so don't go in the wrong direction there. Otherwise, all this is really nice. Sure you want to cancel. This is a really interesting dialogue. Do you really want to cancel? All inserted data will be lost. If I hit cancel, it doesn't cancel. So make sure that you're getting that right. Make sure that I always forget what the correct button order is here. I think you've got it right, but make sure that you've got the yes, no in the right order. And it's all detailed in the style guide.
Yeah, maybe stay and leave would be better than cancel and leave in this case, because
you just want 2 objective things, which is clear which button is going to make you go away and which button is going to make you go away.
Also, I would suggest not showing that dialogue if the user hasn't actually entered.
Good point. If there's no data to lose, then there's no reason not to just let them back out.
And in point of fact, unless that becomes non-editable later, the absolute best user experience is if I haven't entered any data, leave without prompting. If I have entered data, save that data and leave without prompting. And then allow me to delete the data that I've entered if it turns out that I didn't actually want it. And that covers the 90% use case with the least amount of intrusive dialogues.
Otherwise, all of the details are reasonable. The only issue here I have is you've got those custom colored buttons all at the bottom here. In this example, I'm not sure that it does make sense. They just feel a little garish. The colors are really strong, particularly around defaults. This makes me think defaults may do something really bad. Big bright red button, like seriously red. I think that's too far.
I know, it's like composing in Gmail. That's dangerous.
Maybe they want to, because if nothing else, it makes it seem like these are the 2 most important things on the screen, and the show is going to do something magical, whereas all it's really going to do is apply my filters, right, which is perfectly appropriate, but I don't think there's I don't think it's necessary to have them differently colored. Let's see, servers. This is one of the dangers of having all of your actions right at the bottom. It's really easy to accidentally click the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So I totally did that on purpose to demonstrate that point. Search would be nice to have search as inline, so an action bar search rather than popping up its own screen. Particularly that way you can see what is already been before you start searching, and having autocomplete in that would be nice.
I actually feel that way about filters too. I think it's a little harder to do, but especially when your filter is just a list of checkboxes, if you can pop it over, like drop it down from the top or put it in the bottom so that you can see the results.
Absolutely. One thing which you may want to consider trying, I'm not entirely sure how useful this would be, given that we don't have so much local information, but it might be interesting to apply filters by basically pivoting on what the information that you have. And so if I click on the icon, I hit the icon specifically, maybe that just shows me all of the C's, so it doesn't apply that filter that way, rather than having to go through the second screen. Again, I think that's something you probably want to beta test with people to see if that means that they get lost and they don't know how to go back. But something like that is a way to click here, I get a list of all of the links, so if I get back, it takes me back to the main screen unfiltered. I think that would be really interesting.
I would get lost on the plans. They might be okay with that on the second screen. Yeah, it's tough.
It's interesting. Again, basically, what we're trying to come up with here are ways to reduce the number of clicks to implement any behavior. So the problem here is if I hit filter, that's one, and I have to unclick a bunch so that I can just get the one that I want. So I can do 1, 2, 3. It's sort of taking me 4 buttons to get there, and it doesn't actually look like it's applied my filter, which is upsetting. So,
also, yeah, I'm sort of wondering why I have a long list of filters with text when I thought you were training to use these really pretty icons. You know, and if it had been with the icon, you might even be able to group them a little closer together. My main issue with the text is that you've got a bunch of checkboxes and you have to scroll up and down to actually use the filter. You don't want to pack things tightly and make them impossible to use, but let's say that, for instance, just buttons that you can turn on and off, highlighting them in some ways to make them active and inactive. So, a new microphone? Is he blowing out your ears every time he does that?
Figure out something.
But again, just, you know,
It's like drag and drop.
minimizing the amount of scrolling would be really great.
Good point.
But yeah, I can literally see that, just a big box at the bottom of your results list with all those icons in it, and I can just turn them on and off and see their results immediately. That would be awesome. That would be magical, I think. Would it be magic? Okay, he knows what magic is.
Yeah, and otherwise, really nice. I really like the community aspect. I like the general UI. I like the functionality. Huge potential. I think there's a few little things which could make a big difference. So we're going to put some of this nitpicky stuff in an email, send it through, so you have all of that feedback. I'd love to see how you get it. And add some local swimming spots, I promise.
Yeah, it's really cool. And just the last thing, we say this about any app that has communities, you might want to think about hooking into more communities, so having some more information about your users. Maybe hook into Google+. You might think about it.
Yeah, you could consider a Google+ login to swimming places with your friends.
With your circles or whatever.
Kind of cool. All right, nice, thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good point.
Anytime. So I think we're about over our allotted hour, but we're going to stick around a little bit more. Okay, some time. So I know that Dennis was saying that you guys had a few questions you wanted to ask. Before we do that, Ian had a look at a couple more apps while we were waiting to get set up. So if you guys have the time, and Ian's inclined, we may spend another 5 minutes just taking a real quick look at a couple of the other apps on the list. How does that sound?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, that's good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a hard stop it.
So maybe
sort of a hard stop.
2 minutes. Let's
Should I invite the speaker here or just?
I think we'll just take a quick look.
Yeah, let's just do a quick list.
Try and keep it as quick as.
Yeah, and maybe we can set up a hangout with the specific authors later. So I first just wanted to bring up breweries, because when you're saying about talking about hot day, looking for a place to quench your thirst and cool off. Swimming is not actually my first thought. Now this.
Unfortunately, we have a special build on this phone, which
we're not able to look at it from this phone, but it's essentially we were just talking about this. Wouldn't it be great if our Maps app allowed you to simply inject an overlay into the system? Because that's exactly what Breweries is, an overlay into the Maps app. That's awesome, because it gives me a UI that I'm completely familiar with. shows me everything around me, and gives me some really useful information. I assume it's useful information because I don't. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, nicely put together. Unfortunately, we, like I said, we have this sort of a weird build on this phone, so the map view doesn't work. It actually makes it, unfortunately, a little bit less useful to demo.
But the functionality of it, the way you've laid it out, the little beer glasses, I really love this app. I wish I had it for the breweries around me.
Yeah.
So if you want to make like a community brewery feature, I'm on. Now, the next app, I was very impressed with the functionality, but a little bit disappointed with the layout. Now, okay, so first, having these notes in front, we usually discourage. In this case, it was very important information. Basically stated, this is how the app works. This is the way it's going to take care of your kid, and these are the things that it won't do. Especially for the trial, because in the last 20 minutes.
That's kind of important.
Yeah, you don't want to get half an hour into it and realize that your baby's been crying the whole time. So, I'm a parent. I wish I'd run across something like this before. It's awesome. Sometimes we make fun of skeuomorphic design, but I like it.
It's kind of awesome, yeah.
In fact, the only thing that bothers me is, of all the apps we looked at, this is the one that I would vote most likely to have been a lazy iPhone port. It feels a lot like iOS.
Apps along the bottom with the split gradients, we've got the menu button, the settings being here on that tab. All these things make it feel like a port, which these days is much harder to get away with. Android users are familiar with a certain kind of UI, certain user experience. So it's really, you get a lot of value by making an app feel like it belongs to the platform rather than that it was ported across from someone else. And it doesn't have to be iPhone, it can be any other platform or website or anything really.
Yeah. So the functionality is brilliant. It'll monitor your baby, it'll buzz your phone if they start crying. You can actually set it up so that it will play a recorded voice, which I feel ambivalent about as but a few things, for instance, we've got this mommy's voice button. I didn't know what it was when I first pressed it. Now I know it's mommy's voice. Okay, I'm really excited about mommy's voice, which says, oh, you can't use it. So yeah, and this is the pattern we call please do not press this button again. Now it's not quite as bad as many, because it does have to do it now. But I think I would have preferred to just go straight through.
Go straight there, yeah. If that's what you need to do to be able to use the feature, then there's not a lot of benefit to presenting. You sure you want to be able to use the button we've just pressed?
Yeah.
Or again, it follows that same pattern we've talked about a couple of times today. It's reducing the number of clicks between the user and whatever it is that you want them to do. In this case, we've got the feature there. Feature should make it as easy for them to get to the part as less than you can.
Yeah. Now, sharp-eyed viewers will notice that I'm not in the application anymore. That's because I switched activities by going to mommy's voice, and then thought to myself, I would like to go back to where I was. Now, what am I going to do?
Hit the back button.
I was going to hit the back button. That's sort of a reflex at this point, and it takes me out. So, again, the functionality is beautiful, the design is beautiful, but in terms of being suited to Android, it could really use some work.
That's the big piece of advice for this app is, we've already done the hard work, and now you just get to do the bit where you make it feel like it belongs on the platform. And that, I think, is really going to have a dramatic impact in both the engagement of users who use the app and the number of people who choose to download it and keep it. People want to feel like Apple phone. But these days, there's a pretty strong design language around Android, so there's a lot of benefits to trying to stick to that.
And going all the way from the opposite end of the spectrum, Trancefusion really feels like an Android app, as most of the apps we've looked at have today. In fact, there's only two complaints I have about Trancefusion. One of them you just saw, it actually takes quite a while to load up. So maybe the Trancefusion guy can get together with the stocks guy compare notes a bit because, yeah, it's a little bit, but you know, this has a great view swiper. It's you know, this is for the Trancefusion event. I can look at what's going to be on stage at specific times. There's some great info there. I'm assuming it's probably contractually relevant. This is the second thing. I said to myself, wow, I can see exactly who's on which stage, and I can search for DJs alphabetically, which I think is great. But what I really want in an event like this, in fact, this is the one thing that I hate about going to events. What I want more than anything else is just something that lists out everything that's going to happen by time. Because the chances that I'm going to sit there all day long on the hell stage and not care about what's going on in heaven or yes, no, is pretty low. It turns out that feature appears to be here because it's,
I guess that means...
I don't know, I mean, it looked like this is a schedule. See, in 4 days, in 5 days, listed by time, but it's under this heading called online, which actually confused me. Maybe that's is that a European? You're sort of European.
Yeah,
no?
they revoked our European, so I moved out.
Okay, well, so it confused me. What I did like is we've got the favorites star, we've got the page for the DJ. This confused me for just a second until I realized, no, this is a DJ on Facebook. It's not share on Facebook. Sharing is done perfectly using the share action. And once you know, I have the ability to thumbs up or thumbs down, but only during the show. Love that. Love that.
I love the little notification which pops up as well. Really,
that is so beautiful. I love it. That's so much better than posts.
Yeah, it's really neatly done. And a lot of this app does that sort of thing well. Conforms to the guidelines, puts its own take on it. So really nicely done.
Yeah, just like the, you know, these list items. This could be a Matita store day going. I think. I mean, this is.
Big call to make.
You know, this is sort of anticipate some of the places we've been speaking to with it. And just like a little slight separation there, this distinctive cutout corner that's kind of the, as you can see, the trademark of the entire app.
Yeah.
So we think this is really well designed. And not just that, we've seen a lot of really well designed apps that come from design shops, and we hate almost all of them because even though they look really, really pretty in wireframes, they just don't work the way an Android app should. This is an exception. I would like to point this out to most of our American developers and say, why can't the US do this kind of thing? And they'll probably tell us those US programmers are expensive or something, but the app is just perfect.
Yeah. So that's it.
Really, well, except for the online thing. Other than that, we're pretty happy with it.
So okay, we'll send through the specifics to the developers of all of those apps and the remaining apps which we didn't get a chance to look at. I think we had a list of about 13 apps from you guys. We will take a look and give you a handful of apps and then feedback on email.
Okay, so now 2 questions.
Please.
Má někdo otázku na Reta? To asi neuslyší ze zadu, takže já to pak přeložím. Na cokoliv, co se týká Android vývoje. Co vás zajímá? Jinak za otázku dostanete tady zbývající trička. You will get t-shirts for
Awesome.
Máte jedinečnou možnost. Reto není na drátě každý den.
No, tak někdo. Co vás zajímá? Android design.
Nevím, co teď jsou, kdy přijde do Prahy.
Všichni jsme pro tuhle otázku, jo?
Yeah, so the question is...
You have to say that we are all in this room together vote for this question.
Yeah. When are you coming to Prague in person?
Question. It's been a couple of years. I think the last time I was in Prague was 2010. I think my GDP shirt that I am wearing under this, I will say, but it has been a couple of years. Me and Ian are both based in California, which is a long way from Prague. But we do have a really great team of developer advocates based in London. Richard Hyman, Nick Butcher, Stefan, Chris Baines. There's 4 of those guys now. I used to have to do it by myself. They get a team of 4. And they're much closer to you guys. So what you should do is totally just keep poking at them. Tell them that they need to come and visit you guys.
I actually think they'll need that much convincing.
No, I think if you just ask them nicely, they'll already be on the plane.
They're probably already there, knowing those guys. They're not.
Look under your seat. So yeah, a lot of what our team's been trying to do lately is try and find ways that we can reach out and get involved with GDGs and our developer community. More broadly, we used to do sort of GDGs, and I know you guys in Prague kind of miss out because we used to come every year with a big bunch of us and do the big show. But it was kind of unfair because there was only sort of maybe a half dozen countries across the world, or a half dozen cities even, which we would get to visit. It just wasn't really effective. And so we're trying to do things like this as a way to try and be able to reach out and have that one-to-one connection with you guys a little bit more frequently. Now, it's been a little slow going. This is the first one which we've done is with you guys. But we're going to try and do this every week or 2 and be able to come back and talk to you guys much more regularly. So I can't promise that either of us will be given the opportunity to get on a plane and come and meet you guys. The European advocates, more likely. We're hoping to be able to do more and more events like this, give you guys the opportunity to share what you're doing. We can share what we've been doing and put it all online for everyone else to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, the short version of that is Reto convinced our boss to buy this huge high-tech studio by saying we need to pay for any planes this year.
Good explanation. Okay, some other question? Somebody? Yep.
Hi, I'd like to ask, right now I'm developing aDevMeetup Air. It's a multi-platform thing, so you can make apps to both Android and iOS. I know that's not what you want, but that's what the developers want. So I would maybe like some comments on what do you think about apps made maybe specifically aDevMeetup Air or other multi-platform.
I think that's really good. Yeah. So I've been working with some of the other developer advocates to put together a middleware program to look at some of the prominent middleware. We actually did some data mining through the Android Market database to look at which pieces of middleware were in use, and we'll be engaging with the middleware like Adobe Air or Unity 3D, some of the other ones that were very, very popular, thousands of apps apiece. The existence of middleware is interesting. It depends a lot on who you ask. If you ask the framework engineers, they hate it because it's a constant reminder, or at least it feels like a constant reminder that they didn't quite do their job maybe, or there's something that the middleware has that the framework doesn't. If you ask somebody like me where I was doing games and apps, I'm a lot more in favor of it because it makes our job easier. When we're supporting developers, it's a lot easier to support one middleware than it is to support thousands and thousands of developers that might all have the same problem. But the existence of middleware does cause one very large problem for us, and that is that frequently middleware will come around that sacrifices the platform look and feel for a more generic look and feel that is easier to implement in the middleware. So a lot of times we'll see apps built, and it doesn't matter if it's Adobe Air or any of these other ones that none come to mind. I was trying to think of the Apptastic or whatever that thing is.
Titanium, these sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are fantastic time savers, but the problem is the apps they put out aren't particularly good from an Android standpoint. And in fact, when I would make that snarky comment earlier about some apps look really well designed, but they don't feel like Android apps at all. I would put a lot of Air apps in that category. It's not Air's fault. It's just that it doesn't encourage you to think about the specific platform that you're on. And of course, we want things to feel like Android. We want Android to have its own look and feel and cachet in the market. So we're not super excited about apps that all look like they came out of the same cookie cutter.
Yeah, I think that's really the main point from my perspective. I don't really mind how people build their apps. I think most of us don't care. We're certainly not digging in to try and find, what was the technology they used to put that together. We're just going to look at it and judge it on its merits. And what we saw today were some of the most compelling apps were ones which had really distinctive user experiences, which felt authentically like they belonged in Android, and they were fast. And what I've tended to find from a lot of apps which are developed using these cross-platform tools is that one, they tend to be slower, and two, they tend to not have quite as polished, quite as integrated a user experience. So if you can use these tools and build an app which really no one could tell whether it was built natively or using one of these middlewares, then fantastic. If that saves time, if that makes your job easier, if that makes it easier to port, that sounds like all win. It's just a case of trying not to sacrifice the quality of the app in order to try and make it easier or faster to develop.
Now let me just finish by saying there is one thing that you should be very keenly aware of when you use middleware. And that is that middleware companies, especially large ones like Adobe, frequently employ programmers that know a lot about Linux, Android, the underpinnings of the system. And unfortunately, that has frequently led them to abuse the system in ways that weren't necessarily intended. So every time we've put out a new release of the operating system, some apps, and very typically some of the large middlewares, will break because they used undocumented APIs or because they made assumptions about internals of the system that have changed. So for instance, Unity 3D broke when we moved to a new kernel, and we actually had to revert some changes to Android 4.2 in order to keep them running. Some of the other middlewares have used undocumented APIs, even just silly things like an API that changed its name or changed its signature. Now, what will happen with those is they usually fix them pretty quickly, but any app that doesn't update immediately to the new version of the middleware's runtime is going to be in trouble. So that's a long way of saying, make sure that A, your middleware vendor is in contact with Google and knows what's going on. And we do work with these people and try and alert them very quickly to any breaking changes, even though we're snarky about it because they did the wrong thing from our point of view. But second, make sure that every time a new update to the OS comes out, that you get the update from your middleware, because you don't want to be in a position of having a successful app that all of a sudden breaks.
I think we have time for probably one more question.
Okay. I have one last question. When a Czech developer thinks his app is really good, what we should do to get featured? Like how we should contact you? Or is there some form for it? Or?
Fair and good question, and not an uncommon one. The way that featuring happens in Google Play is it's handled by a merchandising team, effectively. And they use a variety of techniques to look for signals to find out what are the new apps, what are people enjoying, what's hot. And they're making a concerted effort this year to really try and be much broader in the sorts of apps that they are recommending and try and find apps in different countries and regions which are more relevant locally. That's not a great answer. Basically, there's not a lot you can do other than build a great app that works well. Make sure that you go through the quality app checklists that we have published on development@android.com. Those checklists are basically what our QA team uses in order to decide whether an app can be featured. So if the merchandising team finds your app and they're like, this is awesome, let's put it on the front page, they're going to pass it on to a team that's going to look at these QA guidelines, and if it fails any of those, then it's not going to happen. So make sure that all of those things, including feature graphics, support for landscape, all of these sorts of things which are documented, make sure your app does those so that if your opportunity does come along, you're able to take advantage of it. In terms of the guys in this room, well, we have an advantage here. We have our own collection on Google Play, the pure Android collection. So we want to hear from you guys. Like, this is part of this Who of Pro. We can't get on a plane, but we can talk to you guys. We can interact on the community, we can interact on Google Plus, via Hangouts like this. So if you guys, if you think you have an app that's ready to be featured, whether it's in Prague specifically, or any region or any country, or even globally, let us know. We'll take a look. We'll give you some feedback.
It's always a tough line to draw because there's a fine line between wanting to have more interaction with independent developers and finding 1,200 messages in your inbox every day saying, will you feature my app? So we tend to not give out specific contact information, and it's hard because at the same time, we don't feel like we necessarily have a big enough inbox of good apps. So the best thing that you can do is establish a track record of quality, because the merchandising team has to take two steps. They first have to believe that the app has something to offer. And then second, they have to pass QA. And the biggest hassle for them is when they think they have an app slotted to be featured in a week or two, and then QA comes back and says, I'm sorry, they failed, you're gonna have to go back to them, and then they have to start exchanging emails, and eventually the slot gets lost, and it's really, really frustrating. And sometimes you'll see the same companies crop up over and over again in our featuring, and there's two good reasons for that. One, there are some major players in the industry that have really, really good apps. But second, there are companies, even minor ones, that just consistently produce quality so that at a moment's notice, if we need to slip something in, we have a free slot one week, we know that we can slip in that app without having to worry about whether they're going to pass QA. So working with a group like this, the GDT, has brought you to our attention, which is great. And you've also convinced us that most of the apps you write are really great. So that's wonderful. And we can try and bring the apps we know about to the merchandising team's attention. Then it's your job to not let us down. If we give them an app and say, hey, we should really feature, let's say, the Stocks app, which is an international appeal app. Let's make sure that that thing actually passes QA the first time.
So that will be the process. Make sure, go through the QA yourself, take it to a GDG. You guys, we just all are really great app developers. So show your apps to each other. Get that feedback ahead of time, and then tell us as a group, like these two apps built by these guys, these are perfect now. We think that you guys should totally do something and promote these, and then go from there.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I would like to thank both of you for participating in this and organizing this with us. We are proud to be first GDG in the world to host App Clinic. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. It's been really rewarding, really interesting, and great to see that product developers continue to be some of the most talented app developers in the world. So
thank you for giving us apps that we didn't pay.
Yes.
You don't know how hard our job is sometimes. Today was easy.
Touch with the developers of all the apps which we got to look at today, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again sometime.
Okay, thanks, and have a nice day.
Yeah, you guys too.